linoleum tiles, I remember, and that was something. And by gosh, if they didn't come by, I guess a year later, and they condemned the building.
Oh, you're kidding!
Yeah.
All that work! Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so, but that was a good experience. They had a nice public school down there too, and the principal took us through there, and this was all for the mountain kids, and he said that he made it his business to visit all the families in the mountains where the kids came from at least once a year.
Oh,
So that was something.
sounds like he really cared about his kids.
Yeah.
So, you moved here from up north in what year?
What was that?
What year did you move down to this part of Indiana?
Oh, we moved down in '55.
In 55.
Yeah, I started out at Milan in October, 1st of October of '55, and of course that was the year after they had won the state championship in basketball. Gonzaga almost pulled it off, but
They did. I was
they
rooting
ran
for them.
out of steam. I didn't listen to it. I can't see the TV, so I don't even turn it on. If I turn it on at all, it's just to hear the news. And,
Well, I remember you telling me about how you came from Whitlatch Clinic and you all decided to build the hospital in Lawrenceburg. So
Yeah.
when did you move into this house?
well, I moved in June of '59.
59. And you already had Pam then, didn't you?
Well, we had Pam and Gordon.
Pam and Gordon both.
Both, yes. Well, no, we had Pam, Gordon, and Rachel, because Rachel was born out in Milan. So we had 3 children when we moved into the house. And it became obvious, this was Mr. Ritter's house. I don't know if you remember the Ritter Tire Company,
Yes, sir.
but he built this house in 1934. And, you know, that was after Prohibition was lifted, and he had the contract, I guess, with Seagram's, and he took care of all their tires. And so he did pretty well. He built this house, but I think his wife had arthritis, and so everything was sort of on this floor. There was an attic, and it became obvious that we needed to do something up in the attic, so I did quite a rehab up there. There were 2 large unfinished rooms up there with a partial bath, and I put 4 bedrooms up there and 2 full baths up there with showers for the kids. And so
That's amazing. All the while you're still doing your
that-
full-on practice of general surgery too.
And of course, the kids were spread out over a period of time, so we kept a couple of them here in the parlor when they were very young. And then as the kids moved off to college, why, we kept the rooms for a while, but once they left, why, other kids moved in, like the 1 bedroom was initially Pam's, and that became Glenn's bedroom. And then Gordon's bedroom became Garth's bedroom. And Rachel's bedroom became Amy's bedroom.
Musical chairs.
And Guy had his bedroom up in front there, and he had mice in it up there, and he had all sorts of things. Of course, Rachel had you know, the animal of the month, and we had she'd get those, and of course we'd lose them after a while, someplace in the house. And that was something.
So, what year did we start the new elementary school down here? Did Pam and Gordon go to Northside School, or were they automatically in the new school? Do you remember?
Oh, Gordon, his first year, went to West Side,
West Side.
but Pam went down here
Okay.
from the start. And of course back then, I believe Danny Belmer was the principal when she started. And I think it was, what was Mrs. Hopmeyer?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. She was our,
And then there was
Our,
Mrs.
kindergarten
Cherry
teacher.
and Mrs. Britton
yeah,
and
Mrs. Porter. Geneva
yeah,
Porter.
Mrs. Kroger and Mr. Kroger. And then of course Nelson Elliott was down there when I was on the school board for a short time. Of course, Mr. Pitts was the superintendent. I guess he followed Mr. Driver, Hal Driver, and that was about it, as far as I can remember.
So all your children went through this school system, didn't they?
Yeah, well, you know, this house was ideal because the kids could come home at lunch
Yes.
and they could walk to school. And of course, we did not have this connector highway out here, so it was relatively safe for them to cross the street. And they used to have, for a short time, I think, some patrol kids for the crossings. I remember that didn't last too long, but it was never a problem as far as the traffic was concerned. No tractor trailers like there are now.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that was NDOT. That was such a sham when they pulled that off. You know, they had a meeting down at City Hall, and the guy from NDOT, I mean, nice guy and everything, and he started into his spiel, and I suppose I inappropriately interrupted him. I said, "Is this already a done deal?" He said, "Yes." And that was it. It was much why they called that meeting, and it was already decided. And the meeting was called for the input of the public. And that was it. And of course we had some kids across the street, little kids. And I said, it's just an accident waiting to happen. And that was it, but nothing changed in it. So now we have the tractor trailers coming down here. Once they get at the top of the hill up there, they just come down here. There are no speed bumps or anything like that. And I don't think they pay any attention to the speed limits. And it's just unfortunate. And of course, just like the school moving out onto the hill, the property values, you know, just go down.
Were you part of the school board that made that decision?
What's that?
Were you on the school board when they made that decision?
Oh no, that decision was made in the late 90s, I believe. No, I wasn't on the school board then. I think I was on the school board in 1965, and I'm not sure who was the mayor. You know, it was an appointed position then.
Was it?
Yes, and Leon Kelly. You know, Richard, how long he was the mayor?
Well, in 1965, it might have been Bernard Teeney or Nathan Schwanholt. Those are a couple names that come to mind. Of course, I was just an infant then, but from reading the history, Bernard Teeney was elected in 1960, so he would have been in there until 1963 or 64, somewhere around that. I think he was the mayor during the flood in 64, and then Didn't, do you remember Nathan Schwanholt? Didn't he come after Bernard? Or, that's just my memory of it.
Well, I was on with Nelson Beer and Merle Fox, and toward the end, Polly Newman.
And they were appointed, that was a mayor's appointment for the school board, you're saying?
Yeah, that was appointed. They called me up. The mayor called me up, and I'm not sure who. Can't remember who it was, and I said yes. And then I got too busy, and I couldn't really handle it after a few years' time. I worked with Mr. Pitts, and of course, you were going to school, Dale, when I was on the board?
Yes.
Dan's over here on
Dan,
the
I'm
left.
over at this
where?
side.
I'm sorry.
Well,
That's
what years were you on the board?
I think it started in '65.
Then Dan would have graduated already.
Yes, I graduated '64. Then you would have came in a year later.
Well, the one experience I had on the board was at a graduation when the Neary boy graduated. Dr. Neary's son,
Dennis.
and he came back. Of course, he was, I guess, in a PR guy up in Indianapolis. I guess he's done quite well, and I guess he had developed a program about southeastern Indiana, involved Tom Ward. And anyway, I remember that graduation, and he he didn't shake my hand. I had the diploma in one hand, and I reached out to shake his hand in my other hand, and he grabbed the diploma and walked right by me. And I never forgot that. But I guess he's done very well, so that's good.
I think you would have been impressed with the film that he made, the video that he made. He did a nice job. He did. There was a lot of historical fact and reenactment, and he got several grants to make this movie, and it was a good deal.
Well,
It really was. I learned some things that I didn't know before, but
I'll bring you a copy.
well,
so Pam went on to be part of Red Cross, didn't she?
I didn't hear you.
Your Pam, she went on to be part of the hierarchy in Red Cross. Isn't that what you told me before?
Yeah, she worked for the Red Cross for a while. She's now professor of nursing down there at Texas Christian University. She's been there for quite a few years. And
Rachel?
Rachel, she's still working. She works for Social Security, and her husband, who worked for Social Security, he retired now. And of course, they live up in Wheaton, and they live about 10 minutes away from Guy. Guy lives up there, and he works at home with for AT&T.
He's had that job for quite some time, hasn't he? As I remember, he went into that telecommunications up around Chicago area for quite some time, hasn't he?
Yes, he's well, he manages the managers. what he does, and I guess they're one of their big offices is down in Dallas, and he has to fly down there a couple of times a year and for meetings, and that's it.
Well,
But he never has time to see his sisters. Both of them, Pam's down there in Hurst, Texas, which is between Dallas and Fort Worth, and Amy is in Fort Worth. So that's it. Of course, Amy's two children, they're The boy is graduating.